I wanted to talk a little bit about embroidering wedding hankies or just any commemorative handkerchief that you'd like for men or women. This happens to be one that I think I found on eBay, and I just wanted to bring in an example to kind of get an idea of how this would look on a hanky. It was advertised as 11 inch, which means I've got 5.5 inches here and 5.5 here. And I have skewed it to try to get it fairly straight, but it is still just a little bit off, but it was getting really distorted to take it much further than that. This will be enough for my purposes. Now, if you don't want to work with a hanky, you could also draw a shape that was going to, now this is going to take a while to open, so I won't do it. Go into your artwork canvas and draw a 5.5 inch square, turn it 45 degrees, and then you have a diamond to work within to give you an idea of where the lettering and such will go. So there's a few things I want to do to this. I don't like how close that J is. So I'm going to touch H on my keyboard. It's the same thing as coming up here and touching reshape object. And once I do that, I'm going to zoom in so that you can see this a little bit better. Once I do that, then I get the diamonds that I can move and adjust these letters. That's a little too far. I'm going to use my right arrow on my keyboard and just kind of nudge it over in place. I'm going to let it get close enough that it doesn't do a trim, but I still want it to give me the space that I want. And now that I've done that, I've about decided that I'm actually going to use a different font for the date and let it be slightly smaller. And I'm going to touch the escape key to disengage the reshape. So to change out that font on that one, I'm going to need to go to Edit and Break Apart. I'll be keeping these two. This one, I will come up here to Properties and the Lettering tab. And let's find something just plain. Let's see what Blackboard looks like for us. And the size is probably fine. Yeah, that is thunder coming. I'm trying to see if I can't get this done quick before our internet goes out, because it does when it rains. So that's really large. Let's take this down to right click to get the properties. Let's try this at, oh, no wonder it's difficult for me to keep track of. Let's go to metric. That makes more sense. Object properties. There we go. So in version 9, we have these hints that will tell us what size this font was digitized to be at its premium. But I'm going to fudge and go outside that. Let's take this down to about 8, and then we'll check it out. I double-click that time to open the object properties. And let's put our lettering spacing on 0 and apply. While I'm in here, let's go to the effects, and the underlay, let's change to a center walk, because the zigzag will just be too heavy for that tiny of lettering. And the same thing for these two. I'm going to take a shortcut to get to the underlay this time, and I'm going to be changing those to center walk. Okay. This is going to need a little help. First of all, I want it in the center, so I'm changing that to 0. I'm going to nudge it, so I'm using my up arrow key on the keyboard, and I'm just kind of looking at the negative space between them to get them fairly even the way I want them. Okay. Touching H. And again, I'm always looking at the negative space as far as it's about right. Let's give this a little more room between them. But still, I've got it set to where it won't trim between these. The machine will continue to sew, which is what I want. And the 2025 is not bad. Let's look at the entire thing and again touch 0. Let's put that in the center. Enter. Is Sullivan in the center? No. Let's go ahead and do that. 0. But I don't like the look of it, do I? Let's keep going. This one. And 0. Enter. Touching 0, I can see everything on my screen. Yeah, that's fine. I like it fine. Now this is one that I found in the monogram icons. We're used to importing embroidery. I'm going to go to the Bernina 9 embroidery and our decorative accents. So we're used to bringing these in. And we have more in the designing level of the Bernina than we do in the Creator. But still, I wasn't seeing something that, that I really wanted to use on that hanky. What else do we have? Decorative accents. Under monogram, these are ones that you save. So I don't have any in there. Here, I was looking to see what's there. So under the alphabets and monogram, there are a few more that would be better suited. Let's get these up larger so that we can see them. In Windows 11, they've changed how we get to our view. So it's this little icon, and we'll come up here and I'll put this on large so that I can see them better. And so we have a few more choices there. These are kind of pretty. They're just a little bit bolder than what I wanted. Okay. But to get the one that I actually found, I opened the lettering and monogram tab and went to the monogram Docker. And I only need to look at ornaments. I'm not going to do any of these fancy borders. I want to see what ornaments are there. And to get them to come up, you'll touch Add. And we're going to say from Patterns. And by touching this, I can see what the stitches actually look like. And now I'm going to find way more that I can use. Are there more still? Well, there's corners. That could be interesting. Embellishment. These really won't work out so much for my hanky. I have used this one in the past. Ornaments. Those are pretty. So we have more options if we open the monogramming Docker. I keep losing that word. Okay. And the one I chose, I love these scrolls. I think they're really they're sometimes just enough. I was thinking the one I chose. I'll just choose a new one. This is pretty. And we'll say okay. Now it's going to come in. I need to tell it where that I want it placed. Here we go. I think this is the one I used. That is pretty. So it's just a simple scroll. It's not going to be as heavy as the one I'd chosen in the past. But I can move it. So this one I'm going to delete. Touching 0. That's going to be just enough. Now you can move these down if you're wanting to get closer into, to be in the lower half of this. Excuse me, Control Z. I should lock this. So with it selected, I'm going to touch K, and that puts a tiny lock. Now that won't happen to me again. So I have my selection arrow on, and I'll draw a bounding box around the entire piece. I can nudge it downward, or I can move the entire piece. That's going to be pretty. Maybe I don't want, I'm looking at the negative space, and I just wanted to push that up just a little bit. Okay. Now we can print this out so that we can be sure of where this is going to fit on our hanky. And so by printing this, you can either cut it down, cut around this and place it on the hanky, or if your hanky is white, you can see through it so that you can lay the hanky on top of this without cutting the paper, and then just make you some marks that will disappear or be hidden. Perhaps the center mark would be what you'd want to do if you had a marker that you knew would come out. So we'll close this for now. But let's say you do want to do a basting box around this. Let's come into Digitize, and let's do just a closed object. And so I'm going to come across here, and I can hold Control down to here, 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 here. I'm looking at the one beside it. This we're going to change to just an outline. I'm also going to increase that to about 6 millimeters in between the stitches. I don't necessarily want variable run. We'll say okay. Because what I'm going to do, I think I get a smoother sew when these are rounded. So I'm going to touch H so that I see the nodes. And I'm going to start converting these to rounds. I'll add another node to control that better. And you could select them all at once. That does as well also. But let's move this down. Let's right click and add one at the top. Bring this in fairly close to your lettering so that it does you the most good. We're trying to keep from getting puckers in the hanky. Okay, so this would be removed, but it's actually going to go first. So I'm going to use the move to start, and that will sew first, and then your lettering will begin. When I do these, I want to be sure that I'm hooping. I don't like to float. So what I'm going to do is adhere a tearaway stabilizer to the back of this and extend it large enough so that my hoop will actually fit about here. But it's going, and then I might even tape this edge depending on the lace. If it's not too fragile, I'd want to use painter's tape and actually tape this down to the stabilizer that's adhered to the back. I might even use another layer of tissue type stabilizer in addition to the first one. Just if needed. Of course, you're going to try this first on just plain cotton before you go to your hanky. Some of them are rather expensive. Some of them are inexpensive, but always test your work before you go to the actual project. Thanks for watching.